Once upon a time, in a small village nestled between rolling hills and a sparkling lake, lived a young man named Arjun. Arjun was known throughout the village for his intelligence and his insatiable curiosity. He was a voracious reader, devouring every book he could get his hands on, and his thirst for knowledge knew no bounds. But most of all, Arjun was incredibly proud. Proud of his sharp intellect, proud of his ability to outshine everyone around him, and most of all, proud of himself. One day, as Arjun was strolling through the village, he overheard some villagers talking about a renowned sage who lived deep in the forest. They spoke of his wisdom and the magical powers he possessed. How was he supposed to know that? He had no way to count the water molecules. He tried to explain this, but the sage cut him off. "That is your answer," he said, "the exact number of water molecules in that pot. And if you wish to enter my hut, that is the price you must pay. It read only those who are humble can enter." But Arjun, with his overflowing pride, scoffed at the sign. He started by listening more and speaking less, paying attention to the stories and experiences of the people around him. No matter how hard he tried, his old habits kept creeping back in. One day he was visiting the sage again, hoping for more advice on how to deal with his pride. He treated the village elder with more respect and offered to help the young children with their studies. Slowly but surely, he shed his arrogance and embraced humility. "Close your eyes, my child, and think about the last time you felt truly happy, the last time you felt at peace." He sat down beneath its spreading branches and closed his eyes, trying to recapture the feeling of peace he had once known. But his old habits resurfaced, and his mind raced in 1,000 different directions. He learned that true happiness and peace could not be found in the past or in some distant future, but in the here and now. And he realized that humility was not about belittling oneself, but about appreciating the interconnectedness of all things, the understanding that we are all part of something greater than ourselves. Frustrated, he opened his eyes and looked at the tree. He had been so focused on finding his lost kingdom that he had forgotten to actually live in the present moment. The ability to live in the present moment, to appreciate the beauty of the world around him, and to connect with others in a deeper, more meaningful way. He learned that true wisdom lay not in the accumulation of knowledge, but in the cultivation of humility. And in the end, it was this humility that brought him the greatest happiness and fulfillment. Arjun closed his eyes and thought. He felt the rough bark of the tree against his back, the soft grass beneath him, and the gentle breeze ruffling his hair. He heard the birds tweeting in the branches above him and the distant sound of a stream, and as he continued to relax, he could feel a sense of calm washing over him. It wasn't the same as the peace he had experienced as a child, but it was a start. The sage advised him to revisit that place, the tree under which he had found solace as a child, and reminded him to approach it not as a proud scholar, but as a humble student ready to learn. He remembered a time when he was young, before his pride took root, when he used to spend hours reading under the shade of a big tree in the village square. He could feel the wind on his skin, hear the birds singing in the tree, and see the sunlight filtering through the leaves. He felt a sense of joy and contentment that he had never experienced before or since. All those books he had read, all those hours spent poring over ancient texts, and now he was being challenged by a supposed sage with a question he couldn't answer. He would pay the price, even if it meant swallowing his pride. "You are like a king who has lost his kingdom. You keep returning to the same place again and again, expecting to find your lost kingdom, but you forget that you have the map to your kingdom within you." Confused, Arjun asked, "What do you mean?" Taking a deep breath, Arjun sat down opposite the sage. As Arjun listened, he felt a weight lifting from his shoulders. "Yes," said the sage, "that is where your happiness lies. That is where your peace of mind resides. And the only way to reach there is to follow the path of humility." He had spent so much time and energy on being proud that he had forgotten the joy of learning, the pleasure of not knowing, and the freedom that comes from not being attached to his own thoughts and opinions. "I may not know the exact number of water molecules in the pot," he said, "but I am willing to learn. Please teach me how to be humble." Was this a joke? But when he turned to leave, he noticed another sign. It read, "Knowledge is the key that opens the doors to humility." And suddenly Arjun realized that the sage was not testing his knowledge, but rather his pride. He thanked the sage for his guidance and promised to put his teachings into practice. As he walked out of the hut, he noticed that the sun was setting and the sky was ablaze with colors. For the first time in a long time, he truly appreciated the beauty of the world around him. He pushed open the door and stepped inside without a moment's hesitation. Intrigued, Arjun decided to visit the sage, thinking that it would be an excellent opportunity to test his own knowledge and perhaps learn a thing or two. Knowledge without humility is like a bird without wings. It cannot soar to new heights. Arjun nodded, eager to learn, and so the sage began to teach him the art of humility. As they did, he saw the sage sitting calmly in a corner. Surprised by the man's ordinary appearance, Arjun felt a surge of arrogance. But the sage surprised him again. Instead of engaging in a discussion, the sage gestured towards a large pot filled with water that was boiling over the fire. "Tell me," he asked, "what is the exact number of water molecules present in that pot?" This was not what he expected. The great sage whom the villagers revered so much looked like any other old man. As he approached the sage's hut, Arjun noticed a peculiar sign hanging from the door. "I have heard that you are a wise man, but I believe that I can defeat you in a battle of wits." "Very well," he said. "Let us begin." The sage looked up, his eyes twinkling with amusement. The hut was dimly lit, and Arjun's eyes struggled to adjust to the shadows. Arjun cleared his throat and said, "I am here to test my knowledge against yours." Arjun beamed, thinking that finally he would get a chance to show off his intelligence. Arjun frowned. Arjun was furious. He turned back, his anger replaced by determination. The sage smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "That is the spirit," he said. He spoke to him about the importance of respecting others, of listening more and speaking less, and of always remaining a student, never a master. After many hours of discussion, Arjun stood up, feeling like a different person. In the days that followed, Arjun made a conscious effort to be more humble. However, as time passed, Arjun found that his pride was like a stubborn weed that refused to be uprooted. The sage listened patiently to Arjun's struggles, and then said, the sage smiled. His pride was preventing him from experiencing true happiness. It was keeping him from living in the present moment. When he opened his eyes, he looked at the sage. "Is that my kingdom?" he asked. Arjun understood. Following the sage's advice, Arjun returned to the tree. Taking a deep breath, Arjun let go of his expectations and simply allowed himself to be in the moment. From that day on, Arjun made a new effort to live in the present moment, to appreciate the beauty of the world around him and the people in it. And so the proud student became a humble learner, not because he lost his pride, but because he found something far more valuable